when you read your book, and anything at City Journal or Manhattan Institute, all the stuff is so great, Rafael. So grateful to you, all of you guys there. You see the truth, which is what happens is the media and the Democrats find one cherry-picked case of cops who do the wrong thing, cops like a Derek Chauvin with George Floyd, and they put it on loop, and they try to say it represents all police officers, and then policing in the neighborhood goes down, the cops feel demoralized, crime goes up, and murders spike, sometimes in record levels, in the very communities that the people who got the firestorm started in the way they did, in the dishonest way they did, claim they want to protect. It is black and brown people who are in those numbers that caught in the 2020 record-setting spike.
Absolutely.
Those are the people getting killed.
Yeah, they bore the absolute brunt of that spike. I mean, to begin with, if you just look at homicide victimization rates, it's about 10x for black males than it is for white males. So when we talk about, violent crime in New York City, for example, every single year for which we have data here, going back to at least 2008, a minimum of 95% of all shooting victims are either black or Hispanic, almost all of them male. That is one of the starkest and most persistent disparities in the criminal justice data that you can find. And it gets nowhere near as much attention as the disparities of enforcement statistics. And that right. is, of course, the focus of, people who have been critical of the criminal justice system and of policing. And you're exactly right. They take these really terrible cases, and these are terrible cases, right? By no means am I arguing that the criminal justice system is perfect, that policing is perfect. It's a human endeavor. Any human endeavor is going to be susceptible to human error, even malice and malevolence, right? So that exists. There is a such thing as a bad cop. But we live in a really, really big country with 330 million people. In a country this size, even really rare things happen every day. And if you have an institution like the sort of mainstream legacy media that's dedicated to playing up one of those really rare things, it can make it seem like this happens on a regular basis. And then that distorts our perception of what the issue is. I mean, sometimes I'll give, public talks and I'll poll audience members and I'll say, like, how often do you think police officers use force? And, sometimes people say, oh, it's 15%, or sometimes it's 50% or 60%. It's less than 1%. For deadly force, it's less. It's like less than a fraction of 1%.
Of the days on the job.
But this is not something that. Say that one more time.
Of the days on the job, like less than 1% of what? The days that they're on the job?
Less than 1% of all arrests that are affected without the use of force. So just one example of this, there was a study that looked at 1 million calls for service across 3 police departments, one in North Carolina, one in Arizona, and one in Louisiana. That 1 million calls for service, those resulted in 114,000 criminal arrests. In that entire data set, there is just one fatal police shooting captured. And in 99.7% of the arrests captured in that data set, no force was used to effect the arrest. And in 98% of the cases in which force was used to effect the arrest, there was either no injury or mild injury to the suspect. This is completely at odds with what the dominant narrative about policing is in America, right? We're all told that police are these sort of trigger-happy, violence-prone Neanderthals who are just going out there hunting black people, like LeBron James said. It's just not true. Police are incredibly restrained. That doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes and that there aren't examples that you can pull and essentially cherry pick to try and create the sort of distorted image that I think a lot of Americans have in their head about policing. But that doesn't do us any good. What it does is it encourages both a pullback on the part of officers who are understandably afraid that should they find themselves in a controversial use of force, that they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, that they're not going to get a fair shake when that case is being evaluated, whether it's by the executives in their department or by the court of public opinion. And so they pull back. And then on top of that, it encourages a policy regime, a policy agenda that we've seen over the last 2 years really get accelerated, that is sort of singularly aimed at constraining the power of police, defunding them, minimizing the resources at their disposal. And that has costs. and it has costs that are disproportionately borne by the places with the highest levels of crime. And that's the kind of, sad irony of this whole debate, is that, a lot of these reform proposals are advanced in the name of so-called Black and brown communities, but these are the places that had benefited the most from the crime declines that policing helped bring about. But if you look at just homicides from 1990 to 2014, there was a massive decrease in the nation's homicide rate. That decrease added 0.14 years to the life expectancy of white men and 1.0 years to the life expectancy of Black men. This is from a study done by a sociologist named Patrick Sharkey. The public health equivalent of that, according to him, was the elimination of obesity altogether. And so what I try to ask people is, what sense does it make to claim that the institution of policing and criminal justice writ large is sort of designed and operated to the detriment of Black communities? How is that congruous with the reality that when the system achieves its stated ends, which are crime declines? Ask any police executive in America, what are you trying to do? They're saying control crime. Well, when that succeeds, when that happens, it's Black and brown communities that benefit the most. So there's a real kind of underlying incongruity in just the basic framing of the argument that I think just doesn't get enough attention and makes for a really just unproductive national conversation.
Gathering around the dinner table has been the catalyst for change since the beginning of time. Ronald Reagan once said, "All great change in America starts at the dinner table." If we can return to eating meals together as a family, maybe we can create the conversation and change we'd like to see in ourselves, in our country. Perhaps it feels a little overwhelming to get everyone together and still make a great meal. But Good Ranchers has got your back. They will make it easy for you. Pull out a Good Ranchers package of beef, chicken, or seafood. You season with a little salt and pepper, or you won't need to season at all if you get the pre-marinated kind, which I love. And then you cook it however you want. Tastes amazing. Every box you get is superior quality, flavor, and value. Good Ranchers is a company that supports American agriculture and business. You're already buying meat, so why not support an American company like Good Ranchers? Use my code MEGAN to get 30% off $30, I should say, off your order, plus free express shipping. Make gatherings at the table easy and fun with Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com/Megan to bring your family and friends to the table and eat some seriously delicious food. goodranchers.com/MEGYN. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.